Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are advised that this film contains images of people who have passed.
As more and more people arrived in the Goldfields, water took centre stage in a decade-long drama. Some of the episodes were a little whimsical. But the reality for many was deadly and tragic. In the years between the discovery of gold in Coolgardie and Kalgoorlie and the completion of the water pipeline from the Perth Hills, water performed in several leading roles. Water was the creative muse who sparked innovations and inventions. It played a hungry beast that consumed thousands of hectares of forests. An entrepreneurial builder of a major local industry. And a random killer of thousands of men, women, and children. Earlier, water had appeared in namaholes or waterholes, which local Aboriginal people shared with the first explorers and prospectors. Otherwise, water only appeared in intermittent rain and in salt lakes, which were not fit for humans or animals to drink. But now the gold rush and resulting population explosion meant that other sources of water had to be found, urgently. Initially, that meant bringing in water as a passenger on wagons, but this was very expensive and soon proved insufficient to meet the demand. However, when the railway was extended into the Goldfields, it was possible for a new industry to be created, with the help of a featured performer, the salmon gum.
The condensers come in after the rail. The Wilkie Brothers, another story, but they had the contract. They bring the rail through from Southern Cross. And one of the Wilkie brothers, he is the man who sets up the condensers. Would have cost a lot of money.
Boil the water and then condense it. The result is drinkable. Expensive, but simple. The Wilkie condensers produced 100,000 gallons of water each day. Smaller enterprises also started up. Water had attracted entrepreneurs who created a new industry, but there was a downside.
I remember one story that came from there was that babies taking on this water, it was separating the lining of their stomachs, and a lot of these babies died from the water from the condensers, because it's not just salt, there's other chemicals in there as well.
Of course, wood was also needed inside the underground mine shafts.
For every tonne of dirt they took out, they took a tonne of timber back down to hold the roofs up and the likes of. So for every tonne of dirt, there was a tonne of timber went somewhere, either to produce gas or steam to keep the mine running.
The Wilkie condensers alone consumed 100 tonnes of wood a day to provide water to the community, which is where water becomes that hungry beast.
There was a huge requirement for firewood to actually boil this water. So a series of wood lines were set up, all originating from Coolgardie, off the Coolgardie-Perth narrow gauge railway line. So there's all these spurs that went off the rail into the bush for hundreds of kilometres either side of Coolgardie, and then further east to Kalgoorlie to Lakewood, and further out east into the edge of the Nullarbor.
The result was deforestation of vast areas. But years later, nature is staging a renewal.
This beautiful big tree behind me, you can see all the sprouts coming up. Well, originally it would have been a single stem, and it would have been a very big trunk. You know, we come back 100 years later and we look at where the trees survived. They've all branched out. Multiple growths have come from the cutting, and now it's more like a big bowl of roses.
Water, the beast and destroyer of forests, simultaneously took on another role in Goldfields' life. Water became a random killer. The namaholes, which had once been life saviours, turned deadly.
This was brought about by the camels leaving their dung all around, and the water was washing. It's not into wells, they were more into dams. And so the water was getting pretty bloody stinky and things like that. So if you didn't boil that water before you used it, it was almost a certainty you would get typhoid.
Polluted water and poor sanitation resulted in waves of typhoid epidemics in the Goldfields. Between 1896 and 1900, author Vera Whittington calculates that there were 2,454 cases of typhoid reported in government hospitals in Coolgardie alone, and 208 deaths. This does not include those who may have died in outlying camps or simply didn't make it to the hospital. It was the largest typhoid epidemic in Australia's history. But perhaps the most important role water played was when it was almost completely off stage, and it related directly to gold. From the Klondike to California to the gold rushes in eastern Australia, miners had panned for gold using water from rushing streams and rivers to separate the heavy gold nuggets from other rocks and debris. But there were no rushing streams in WA's goldfields. Water, the muse, inspired the invention of dry blowing.
When the prospectors come over here, it wasn't like where they left themselves in Victoria or New South Wales where they had rivers and streams. So they had to devise a way of separating the gold nuggets from the dirt. Now the idea is you shake it and those rocks break up any clay. It comes out through the chute down here onto the riffle screen, and those unpainted strips have air coming out and they lift the light dirt up over the riffle and until it works down, and then the coarser stuff and the lighter stuff goes into their dry blowing dump. And the nuggets being heavier get caught in between the riffle and that unpainted strip.
Given the lack of water, and what there was so expensive, this method of separating alluvial gold from earth uses as little water as possible.
Reduced the considerable amount of dirt down to just the heavies in the dish. We will now pan that off, slowly but surely, eliminating all of the heavies and working the pan around slowly so that the gold and the other heavy particles finish up trapped in the last little piece of dirt in the bottom of the dish. And amongst them should be 2 gold nuggets.
Gold is what brought these men here in the first place, and it gave water a starring role until the arrival of C.Y. O'Connor's water pipeline. The role that water had played so dramatically in everyday life had resulted in ingenuity, deforestation, new industries, and death. Now with the pipeline, water became just an ordinary citizen.